Greetings, good listeners. Welcome to Magical Reality TV for the Revolution, and welcome to our cosmic sacred fire in this Pluto Kazemi portal. I'm your host, Shanga Tagore, Artistic Director of Otherworldly Giants, and this episode is the first in a 2-week miniseries that we call The Truth About What Art Can Do in Times of Genocide. During these 2 weeks, January 22nd to February 5th, I'm going to be sharing live script readings of unpublished scripts from my Magical Reality TV series in development on this theme of what is the truth that art can do in these times that we're in. Genocide, escalating fascism, collapsing capitalism, climate catastrophe, all of those things. And from my perspective as a ceremonialist, this is a time of great world reversal. This is a great planetary shift that our elders across diverse lineages have prophesized for generations, and we are thick in the middle of it. We know that this is not just a time for genocide. It is a time that we rise and shine. Our ancestral gifts and our cosmic and planetary technologies. Our sincere, holistic healing, including the ways we must confront the systems that are killing the planet as they exist within us. It's a time of immense grief. And it's a time that we look to find the heartfelt purpose and advocacy that emerges when we travel the depths of our grief. The purpose of this 2-week series is to share our storytelling medicine with you, which is specifically designed to unlock the path of thriving that we must protect and experience for ourselves, especially during these times. Some of you know me. Some of you are getting to know me. I have been creating Magical Reality TV, this series, for the last 2 years-ish on my podcast, Otherworldly Giants, the Divination channel. And this particular 2-week series, personally, is about me reintroducing myself to the world and reintroducing this world that I steward to you. So this is part of the initiation that I'm in right now, which is opening my heart to start a new chapter in life when it is still really painful, to say goodbye to my previous life. You know, the last episode of this series, this 2-week series on February 5th, will mark the closing of our doors to our Butterfly Sanctuary, which is our in-house artist retreat program. So this launch, this 2-week launch is about sharing myself with the world again and inviting people into my world. So before I do any of that, I have to tell you exactly why I would screw up this launch. So much that I decided to make it the title of our very first episode in this series. So let's get into it. Sit back and relax, good listeners. This episode is episode 1 of our mini-series, and it's called Why Would I Screw Up This Launch? Or Storytelling as the Ever Unfolding Breath. Okay, so it's about 7 or 8 days ago. I download this whole idea for this 2-week series, right? And I'm super excited about it. And I want it to be successful. And it's not like it's low stakes either. TBH, if I don't take some extra steps to work through this energetic density of this ye olden days fear of being seen wound that many of us are quite familiar with, and if I don't run a successful launch, I'm not gonna be okay. Like, my finances won't be okay, my heart and spirit won't be okay. It's been an arduous couple of years, never mind decade. But the thing is, I have a lot of protection and I have a lot of blessings, so I'm okay. But, I have been teetering on an edge for quite some time, and I can't continue on this way. All this to say, I can't screw up this launch. But a few days ago, I sat with myself and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to screw up this launch purposefully. Like, there's a part of me that will intentionally screw it up. Why? Okay, so I'm a ceremonialist, like I mentioned, and an energetic surgeon. So I look at everything as an altar. And I can see the flow of my medicine is really, really strong, but it's getting stuck right at the door, the juncture on the southeast corner of an altar. So that space in my practice is the place in the energy field where you welcome people through the door. And it's like the most important part of any launch. But that place is exactly where I see my energy is all tangled up and it's dense there. So what's going on? Okay, well, let's talk to the multiverse, as you do. So I breathe and I see myself sitting on top of a mountain. You could call this the realm of public visibility. You could call it the midheaven in astrology. Whatever it is, I can breathe easily up here. The air up here, it just suits me. I can breathe my ever unfolding breath. This right here is how and where I need to be in order to accomplish a successful launch and also just like be at ease with myself. When I'm not up there, I'm cranky, I'm grumpy, I feel marred with resentment because I'm not getting the recognition that I need, and that skews my perception of everything. But I'm not there on the mountain every day. Where am I? I'm on the ground. I'm a slayer. I'm basically the queer, brown, spiritual vampire slayer that we all needed on the WB in 1998. Am I right? Down here, the energetic quality is chock full of vampires, demons, and the forces of evil. A list of things, there's a whole list of things down here to transmute on any given day, and it's never ending, right? You kill one vampire, another one rises. A lot of us could spend our entire lives down here. Like, there's always something else that you feel like you have to heal and you have to work on yourself before you're just ready to have a new experience, right? So that's what I've been doing. I'm a wisdom keeper. I wake up, I put on my hood, and I walk around my neighborhood where nobody knows my name. I keep the land clear. And no, they didn't pay Buffy Summers for her career as a vampire slayer either. She has no dental plan. So, I'm watching this version of myself, and then Esta and Rahel appear. Esta and Rahel are my two twin black cats. They're named after two fictional characters from the book The God of Small Things. Esta and Rahel are both in the spirit realm now, but don't worry, they still have lots to say, and thankfully, I'm a good listener. Esta says, "You're like Buffy. You're also like Aragon from Lord of the Rings." Lord of the Rings? We've never read those books. I mean, I tried watching the movies like way back in 2002, but I kept falling asleep. How do you know who that character is? What's his name? Oregon? Aragon. Rahel interjects. Aragorn. Oh, I know him. He's the guy who everyone has a crush on, right? What's his name? Chris Evans. No, Esta says. Chris Hemsworth. Are you sure about that? Very sure. Chris Hemsworth. It's Chris something. We both look at Rahel. I'll Google it. Oh, Orlando Bloom. Esta says, I still have a crush on Chris Evans. Okay, wait, but Orlando Bloom is the elf, though. He's not even Aragon, Oregon. That's someone else, the dark-haired one. Oh my gosh, Mom, Rahel says, do you remember the time that you tried to date that, straight dude? It was, 15 years ago, so it was, but he was, really into you. But then you told him that you fell asleep during the Lord of the Rings movies, and he just, completely walked out on you in the middle of the date. He just left. You better be careful who you tell this story to, Mom. You might scare people away from your launch. Oh, right, yeah, sorry. I'll be careful. Sure, thanks for that. Lest I scare away more straight dudes. That's very assumptive of you, Esta says. Yes, says Rahel, you could just as easily scare away really cool queer women of color who love Lord of the Rings. Okay. But tell me why you're bringing this character up. How do you know who he is? Because we just listened to someone talk about him recently on a podcast. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay, yeah. So apparently Oregon, he's like this character who like he belongs on the throne. You might say on top of a mountain. And he's a good ruler. He's a benevolent ruler. But he's not sitting up there. Yeah, he's a ranger. He's taking care of the land, like hunting demons in the underground. He's like you. He's a slayer. But like the whole kingdom is corrupt now because he's not sitting in his seat of power. God knows who else is more than happy to sit in that empty space and do all kinds of weird shit. Meanwhile, if you just went and sat up there where you belong, you could have such a bigger impact. You know, you could make real impactful change in one fell swoop, more than you could ever do exhausting yourself every day and night fighting vampires down here. It's like, you know, the Lion King? It's the Lion King, right? When Scar was ruling the kingdom very badly and Simba was just like, what, farting around with Timon and Pumbaa eating grub all day? Sound familiar? The three of us give each other a look. Oh, we don't know anything about that. So I take another deep breath. I seek to look at the deeper internal problem, okay? Let's travel from the multiverse into the energy field of my subtle body. There he is, the hooded wisdom keeper, the vampire slayer, Oregon, Aragon, whatever his name is, he's me. I see him at the bottom of a giant canyon, red and brown rocks towering into the sky, surrounding him in perfect protection. He sits on a rock next to a sacred fire. His heart is at peace here, even if he carries such sweet sorrow. This is the issue. This is why I would screw up this launch. Every part of me wants to be successful, but he's sitting here in this hole in the ground and he doesn't have any intention to move. And I can't do it without him. He's the leader in me. He's the vision. He is the scar. He's the wisdom of lived experience that birthed this version of me that can breathe up here. And he's the only one who hasn't said yes. What happens when he doesn't sit there? All sorts of weird shit will sit there instead, right? That's when we fuck up the things that are most important to us, like this launch. Like, who's gonna be the voice in charge of our marketing and promo? The part of me that's like panicking and trying her best to like problem solve. You know, she steps in and she's just really scared about not being able to pay her bills. She's scared about dying alone. She's scared about climate catastrophe. What she really needs is a spa treatment and a hug, but instead she's up there on this mountain screaming, "Come on, guys, you gotta believe me." This is not the vibe you want when you're promoting your business. She wakes up every day building herself up. I can do it. I can do it. She gets the nerve to be on social media and she's like, "Welcome, everyone." Then one person does so much as look at her funny for a glitch of a second and she's like, "Oh, did I say the wrong thing? I'm sorry, I'll stop." Okay, move aside. Now it's anger coming up. Anger thinks they are a way better option to handle the marketing and promoting. But they're not actually any better. Anger sits at the top of the mountain, looks down in the audience, and is like, "You. I don't like you. I got something to say to each and every one of you." And then I pull down my scroll. And I'm like, this thing, and another thing, and another thing. Look, anger as my leader is seductive because that shit can easily go viral. Anger can be popular, but it's not really who we need up there. All the while, my wisdom keeper is just sitting here by the fire, letting it all happen. I know who he needs is Shanga, the human. Like, from today, January 21st, 2025, Pluto, Kazemi, Cosmic Sacred Fire. I mean, technically that was yesterday, but that's when I wrote the script. So I sit next to the Wisdom Keeper and I tell him, you know, you're the only one who can sit up there, right? Why are you still here? There's a ladder right there. And there's so many people just waiting to give you a hand and help pull you up. And look at all these other versions of Shanga, the one who's angry, the one who is very easily spooked, a fraidy cat. Esther and Rahel go like this, because they love acting out the fraidy cat. Wisdom Keeper, every version of me wants you to go up there. We all believe in you. We all support you. We know you. I need you. I don't know what I'm doing without you. I don't know what to do for this launch. Like, how do I make it successful? I do, the Wisdom Keeper says. I know what to do. Can you give me anything to work with? Too tired. Too disillusioned. Too heartbroken. Wait a second. I know you. You're the storyteller from Letters to the Universe. That's the play that I wrote about my life that I performed in 2016. My dad died in the middle of that one. The Wisdom Keeper cracks a smile. Yeah, she says. That's who I am. I put my hand on the Wisdom Keeper, the place between her left shoulder and the collarbone, right here. And that's all I needed to touch for the tears to come. The water spills. It flows. It's not that the storyteller / Wisdom Keeper hasn't been using her voice. She has. She's been working hard in the garden, growing beautiful, bountiful flowers. But when the stories are finished, she doesn't take them out into the world. Instead, she holds them very close to her chest. She sits here in the soil, in the mud, weeping over the flowers, laying them in the arms of the earth, hanging out in sweet company with the bees and the butterflies, the small things. These small things, they mean everything to her. She's holding them, rocking back and forth, repeating through her tears. Nobody wants to share this with me. Nobody wants to share my grief. Nobody does. You're wrong. Whoa, who is that? Oh, it's my future partner. How long have you been here? Esta and Rahel are now in the corner with those heart-shaped eyes. You're wrong, my future partner says, and he starts weeping too. All I want is to share this with you. This part. It's all I've ever wanted. I grow flowers too, and I don't want to keep them to myself. What's it going to take for you to say yes to me, the person you've been praying for? How can I give you the flowers that I don't want to give to anyone but you if you don't let me through that door? As we sit here in this hole in the ground, we notice the energetic grid is glitching. I ask the Wisdom Keeper, how much longer is this place going to last? She replies, not long. What's going to happen if it collapses while you're still here? It'll kill me. Sure, there have been a lot of times that I've picked myself up after a fall from grace, but I won't this time. When it crashes down, I'll try for a second, and then I'll give up. For good. I won't get up again. Then what was it all for? Everything you've survived? You fought the six-headed, multi-dimensional Hydra, and you won. You endured the full collapse of your celestial relationship DNA. You made it through every dark night of the soul. For what? Only to die here? Now, at the precipice of all your dreams coming true? What were you fighting for? For them. so others may live, to give my animals a good death. So you, Shanga, the human, could still know them the way that I do, across worlds, across veils. I did my job. Okay, I'm sorry, that's beautiful, but we've been over this again and again. For generations, the Wisdom Keeper's only role was to protect the medicine and pass it on. But this time, it's different. Your job this time isn't only to make sure others can have the dream, you get to live in it now. I need you to live. Do you, though? What? Are you sure about that? What? You're scared of me. You're scared of my power. You're scared of how famous I could get just by sharing my voice. You're scared of my inherent success. Because it's your life that's going to have to change. Because of me. This whole energetic grid might collapse on me, and there might be a ladder over there, and there might be hands to help me out, but those are only pieces of the story. The truth is, there's only one hand that could pull me out of this hole in the ground, and it's yours. You, Shanga, the human. Not your friends, not your mentors, not your community, not your partner. You. Yours is the only hand that I need. If I don't make it out of here, it's because you let me die. It's my celestial blood on your hands. I look at my hands, the pink, gold, purple, and blue stardust glowing from my palms. You're right. It's me. So what happens next? Fuck if I know. You're gonna have to stay tuned to this launch and find out whether or not I do in fact screw it up. Okay, so that was our episode. Good listeners, but I'm not just a storyteller, I'm a storytelling surgeon. So what I'm gonna do now is pull out some of the ancestral medicine and teachings embedded in these scripts, and all of it is designed to help us unfold this path of thriving during these, monumental times that we're in. So some principles of ancestral artistry that I want to highlight. Whenever we're in the middle of launching and creating something, right, it brings up blocks that we have to work through. And often we try and solve these problems in a way that's overly linear, right? Like 5 steps to work through your blocks and achieve a successful launch. When the truth is that so often the technology we need to remove these blocks is the technology of the storyteller, right? We have to go into to our multiverse, to our subtle body, and we have to give freedom of expression to the parts of our story that need to be given voice. And we have to sit in those questions instead of forcing ourselves into answers. So why is this storyteller so disillusioned and heartbroken? Maybe because of how we treat the storyteller, right? She isn't giving us answers fast enough. We can't fit her into little boxes made of ticky-tacky in order to run a successful business. But then we get to the plot twist. This whole time we thought it was the Wisdom Keeper that was the reason why I'd screw this up. And if you've been listening to my podcast, you know that I have multiple episodes where I land in this existential crisis of I don't want to be here. Again and again and again, the Wisdom Keeper rises and she says, no, I want to live. We've traveled that kind of really similar plot archetype multiple times on the podcast. In fact, our very first episode called Gold was about that. And then we did it again in episode 4 called Self-Full. And then in episode 5 again called Virgo Midheaven. And then we did it again in my 40th birthday episode, which was called The Wolf Who Stopped Time. And also, the play that I wrote in 2019 called Pluto one of the last lines of that play, spoiler alert, is I want to live. And I mentioned my play Letters to the Universe earlier in this episode, and the magical spell and ritual underneath that play was very simple. It was I want the life that I have come here for. And we completed that ritual in like 2016, 2017. So it's been done. And I keep visiting this again and again, thinking that it's the problem. But here in this episode, we've discovered something different. And I did too, as I'm writing it and performing it, right? Like we discover that, oh, it's not the wisdom keeper that's going to screw up this launch. It's the human. Oops. She's the one who's going to let the wisdom keeper die. Why? This is where I'll turn it to you, good listeners. Travel with this one, meditate with this. What do you think? Where does it land in you? What do you think about, like, if you think about these characters, in a script, what's going on, and how does that sort of land with what's going on in your life and your energy field right now? And so feel free to share your thoughts. I really want to nerd out about all these amazing, like, juicy, chewy gems that are coming out of the stories that I'm channeling, right? So feel free to comment below on YouTube, or if you, write something, share something on your own platform and tag me. You can comment on like any of our other posts. Send me a voice note. You can send me a voice note, email me a voice note, or just email me in general. And you can find all that info in the show notes. So to end, I want to speak briefly about storytelling as this ever unfolding breath. So every episode of this series, and as the way that I create storytelling medicine, it functions like storytelling technology, right? That we breathe more and more of a story out. And as we do that, more and more of the medicine unfolds, more breakthroughs, more insights, more guidance, more direction. We become deeper versions of ourselves as we keep unfolding this breath. And so I want you listeners to get the most benefit from this medicine. Okay, so when you listen to these stories, I want you to meditate. I want you to take this as your moment to really tune in to, like, what do I need to thrive, and what is sincerely sitting on my heart, and where is my personal thriving deeply woven into my dreams for the thriving of the planet as a whole. And so I want you to have this time to come back to yourself and your really deep, sincere ancestral listening, and connect to what you really need right now, especially if there's places where you're like, I'm not okay and I need this to shift. Right? And so as we are sharing this storytelling as breathing, what we're doing is we're creating a collective storytelling altar and what I like to call a prayer garden. Okay, so when you come to these stories, speak out loud what you need, and then listen and weave your journey with ours. That's how you weave your journey with ours. That's how you add your seeds to our garden, and then see what happens in the breath that unfolds. See where it keeps finding you. See where it keeps reaching for you, and where it keeps returning you. Okay, so at the end of these 2 weeks, or somewhere in divine timing, I'm going to take this altar, all this medicine that we conjure in this series, and I'm going to offer it to my beloved Nigani Gichigami, which is the indigenous name for Lake Ontario, on the land that I'm currently on, which is Takaranto, aka Toronto, which is dish with one spoon territory. Okay, and so I'm gonna offer the altar back to the water, in deep solidarity and in service to the healing of the planet as a whole. So yeah, that's what we're doing here. And this lake is definitely one of the most powerful bodies of water I've ever known. Has been such a great friend to me. And, definitely, yeah, super powerful, even though to many she might be just a small thing. So that's it for today, good listeners. If you're just finding us, sign up for our email list below to keep updated on this 2-week series and beyond that. And feel free to share this far and wide, and check all the links in the show notes. Until next time, be brave, be a giant.